At about noon of April 10, 2023, while waiting for a rideshare to a job interview at a warehouse on the outskirts of town, Maria checked her email on a public Wi-Fi connection. A message popped up from a woman named Juliette Bonda, from an NGO called Voices Without Borders. The subject line: Urgent, short-term humanitarian support opportunity in North Africa. Maria was skeptical. Scam emails were nothing new. But the message was detailed, and oddly specific. It claimed the NGO was hiring support workers for a refugee logistics project in Agadez, Niger, helping relocate displaced families through UN funding. It offered free travel, on-site accommodation, a $3,500 stipend per month, and a 6-month contract, with the option for an early return if the candidate had dependents. Was it too good to be true? Maybe. But when you've spent a week with your son sleeping next to a trash bin, you start seeing chances in places you'd never looked before. Maria applied. 3 days later, she received a confirmation. A contract. A flight itinerary. A final message. Your presence will make a difference. We look forward to welcoming you. The air in Agadez was dry and hot, like opening an oven. Dust hung in the sky like a permanent curtain. The city was a mix of crumbling clay structures and makeshift tents housing West African migrants trying to cross into Libya and Europe. Maria arrived with Zion in tow. Her contact, a woman named Fatima, greeted her in a beige Land Rover at the airport and offered her a bottle of water. You'll be helping mostly with supply coordination and refugee child support. Nothing dangerous, she assured Maria. We've had Americans, Australians, Europeans. You'll be fine. For 2 weeks, things were quiet. Maria sorted aid boxes. Zion spent hours playing with Tuareg children outside the NGO's dusty compound. At night, the air cooled just enough for laughter and storytelling. Maria even dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was their chance to rebuild. Until the morning they were supposed to deliver supplies to a desert checkpoint. Maria never saw them coming. She sat in the front passenger seat, sipping bottled water as their convoy of 2 aid trucks made its way along a sandy dirt road, 80 kilometers outside of Agadez. Zion sat behind her, asleep. Then, out of nowhere, gunfire cracked in the air. The driver shouted something in French. Tires screeched. Men with AK-47s and turbans descended on the vehicles like vultures. Down! Stay down! The driver yelled. But it was too late. 2 masked rebels dragged Maria and Zion from the truck. They spoke Hausa and some broken English. Zion screamed. One of them slapped a cloth over his mouth. No hurt. Maria pleaded, sobbing. They were thrown into the back of a pickup truck, blindfolded, and driven into the vast, unforgiving Sahara. Hours passed. Maybe days. The sun was relentless. The truck stopped once for water, dirty and metallic. Then again, at what felt like a campsite. There were other hostages, foreigners, aid workers, truck drivers, even a French journalist. Some were shackled. Others sat silent with broken spirits. Maria learned quickly that she had been taken by a Sahara insurgent group called the Black Flame, a splinter militia of al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Their trade. Hostages. Their business. Ransom. Each captive had a price. Europeans went for millions. Americans for even more. Women and children. Useful as leverage. A man named Yusuf, the rebel leader, greeted her with a chilling smile. You are American. You work for NGO. You have child. You are asset. Maria clutched Zion tighter. You will contact your people, Yusuf continued. They will pay. Or you will stay here. Forever. But who could Maria call? She had no wealthy family. No government contacts. The NGO that hired her had gone radio silent. Her bank account held $34. And back in the States, no one even knew she was gone. Maria James never imagined her life would be reduced to numbers. But on her 5th day inside the Black Flames desert prison, she heard it, whispered between guards in Hausa and broken English. American woman. 5 million. Child. 2 more. She wasn't a mother anymore. She was a price tag. Held in a scorching tent with her son Zion curled into her lap, Maria was no longer just a single mom from New Jersey. She was now a pawn in a billion-dollar hostage market spanning across Africa's desert belt. The guards gave her one satellite phone call to a single number. Maria hesitated, her hands trembling. Who could she call? Her sister hadn't spoken to her in years. Her ex. Gone. The diner she worked at? Burned down in a rent dispute 2 months ago. In the end, she dialed the only number she remembered. Leah Cruz, the intake officer at the shelter where she and Zion once slept in New Jersey. It didn't connect. 2 days later, Maria met Nico Derviews, a battered French journalist chained nearby. I was tracking the fake NGO, he said hoarsely, his lips cracked from dehydration. They sent me an invitation to Voices Without Borders? They don't exist. Maria's heart froze. She had suspected, but hearing it aloud made it real. According to Nico, the operation was the work of Victor Heron, a British-born financial strategist turned ransom broker. Heron built a facade of humanitarian work, offering jobs to desperate Westerners, especially women and single parents. Once hired, they'd be flown into desert zones using chartered flights routed through Morocco or Libya. Then they'd vanish, swallowed by the Sahara's vast emptiness. Governments were slow to respond. Media ignored it unless the victim was white, high-profile, or politically valuable. And most families were too poor to pay. It's the perfect crime, Nico muttered. No fingerprints. Just sand. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., the guards walked through the camp rattling tin pans. Prisoners lined up for a piece of dry bread and one metal cup of water, rationed from a shared container filled with sand and flies. Zion often refused to eat. His tiny stomach had shrunk. His eyes no longer sparkled. Maria taught him survival games. Count the stars, she whispered at night. One for every reason we're getting out of here. She gave him imaginary crayons and asked him to color dreams in the air. Pictures of bikes, pizza, the little green dinosaur he left behind in Jersey. But when he asked, "Will Daddy find us?" she didn't have an answer. Back in the US, Leah Cruz finally opened her spam folder on a hunch. There it was, an email titled, "Urgent, Maria James hostage in Agadez." Attached was a low-res photo. It showed a sunburnt Maria, holding Zion, their wrists zip-tied, with desert dunes behind them. The email had no signature. Leah immediately called her friend, Nessa Rain, an independent journalist who ran a podcast called Chasing Shadows, Human Trafficking in Real Time. They contacted U.S. State Department officials, but the case didn't register. Maria hadn't been in a registered aid program. No embassy flagged her departure. No NGO had her on payroll. She fell through the cracks, Nessa whispered. They built the perfect digital ghost. So they went public. By day 13 of Maria's captivity, Leah posted the photo on X, formerly Twitter. This is Maria James. A single mom. Homeless. Lured into a fake humanitarian job. Now held hostage in the Sahara with her 5-year-old son. She isn't rich. She isn't famous. But she deserves to live. Hashtag Bring Maria and Zion Home. Within 24 hours, the tweet reached 1.3 million views. Activists reposted. Mothers around the world echoed it. Celebrities like Zendaya and Trevor Noah added their voices. Investigative outlets picked it up. The heat was on, and it reached London, where a whistleblower inside Heron's shell company Z Global Charities Limited leaked financial records to the press. The NGO was fake. The donations laundered. The job contracts falsified. And Heron vanished. Yusuf, the leader of the Black Flame faction, now knew what Maria was worth. The viral tweet had turned her into a goldmine. He stormed into her tent one morning, phone in hand. "You are famous," he sneered. "You worth more now. 8 million. I'm not worth anything," Maria snapped. No one's paying you. You kidnapped the wrong woman. Yusuf leaned in, smiling coldly. Maybe not for you. But for him. He pointed at Zion. Americans love children. They will pay. Maria screamed, lunging at him, but the guards pulled her back. That night, she told Nico, I won't let them sell my son. If I have to die to get him out, I will. Nico had been planning for weeks. He mapped the camp layout using shadows and sounds. There was a supply truck that came every Thursday, guarded but sloppily checked. The next drop was in 2 days. Nico offered a trade to Salif, a Tuareg smuggler who supplied fuel, encrypted USB drives full of footage documenting the rebel compound. Evidence of hostages. Coordinates. If you get us to the Algerian border, Nico promised, you'll be the man who broke the biggest hostage ring in Africa. Salif agreed, but warned. One chance. One truck. If they see you, you die in the sand. The sandstorm came without warning. At 3:14 a.m., wind roared like a freight train. Visibility dropped to inches. The rebels took shelter in tents, hiding from the stinging sand. It was now or never. Maria wrapped Zion in a thick wool blanket, hoisted him on her back, and followed Nico through the storm. Each step burned. But the wind covered their tracks. They reached the truck. Salif waited in the cab, engine humming low. A shout. A flare. The camp was waking up. Gunfire erupted. Bullets sliced through the storm. Nico pushed Maria forward. Go. She threw herself into the truck bed. Zion screamed as a shot rang behind them. Nico collapsed, hit in the back. Salif hit the gas. The truck sped into the storm as the camp vanished behind a wall of wind and sand. They drove through the night. Maria crouched in the bed of the truck, Zion wrapped in her arms, his little chest heaving with exhaustion. Sand coated her throat, her ears, her thoughts. Every few minutes, she checked his pulse, just to make sure. Beside them, Nico lay unconscious, his body limp, pale, blood soaking through his tattered shirt. Salif drove like a man possessed, navigating dunes by instinct alone. They reached a smuggler's checkpoint near the Algerian border just before sunrise, an old gas station gutted by time and bullets. A crooked sign in Arabic read, "Last fuel before Taman Rasset." "I can't go farther," Salif said. "Too many eyes. But up that ridge, 5 miles, there's an Algerian military outpost. They'll help. Or shoot you." Maria stared at him. "Why help us?" Salif hesitated, then pulled something from his coat, a photo of a little girl, no older than Zion. "My daughter. Taken 2 years ago. Same way you were. I never found her." Maria carried Zion on her back, each step forward a defiance of the pain screaming through her legs. Nico stumbled beside her, barely able to walk. She tied a strip of cloth around his wound, whispered prayers to a god she hadn't spoken to since her eviction. With no water, no food, and no compass, they followed the sun. Hours passed. Finally, figures on the horizon. Military uniforms. Raised rifles. Shouts in Arabic. Maria screamed with the last breath in her chest. "American! Hostages! Please don't shoot!" A soldier barked into a radio. Another approached cautiously. When he saw Zion's limp body, he dropped his rifle and called for aid. Maria collapsed. 2 days later, the world changed. Breaking news: American mother and child rescued from hostage camp in Sahara. French journalist critically injured. Massive ransom network uncovered. The story exploded globally. Maria's photo, hollow-eyed, clutching Zion, wrapped in a thermal blanket, led news broadcasts for days. Her story was told in over 42 languages. The hashtag Bring Maria and Zion Home was replaced with hashtag Maria Survived. But the war wasn't over. Across the world, Interpol, the FBI, and French intelligence launched Operation Desert Chain, targeting Victor Heron and his vast shell network. They froze 44 accounts. Shut down 12 fake NGOs. arrested 19 people across 5 countries, including 2 field agents who had lured other single mothers with fake job offers in Mali and Chad. But Haran? Gone. Until one encrypted file from Nico's USB broke the silence. A video recording of Haran in a luxury desert villa in southern Libya, meeting with a black flame intermediary. With pressure mounting, Haran's own associates turned him in. He was found hiding in Tunisia under a fake passport. Captured without a fight. Maria returned to the US to crowds, press, and camera flashes. But she didn't smile. In every interview, she didn't talk about pain. She talked about systems. How the world ignored poor, vulnerable people until they were profitable. How being homeless made her invisible. How a fake job offer nearly got her son sold for $7 million. She wasn't a victim. She was a mirror held up to everything wrong. Soon, nonprofits began reviewing how they recruit aid workers. Congress proposed the Foreign Humanitarian Worker Protection Act. UNHCR revamped its vetting process for desert-based programs. One voice, once homeless, now echoed globally. Months later, during a podcast interview, a now 6-year-old Zion sat beside Maria. When asked, "Do you remember anything from the desert?" he nodded. "I remember Mommy told me we were stars. And stars don't die easy." The host teared up. Listeners did too. Nico survived, but barely. He remained in Algeria under medical supervision and later testified at Haran's trial. His footage was instrumental in exposing the billion-dollar hostage economy. How middlemen, rebel militias, and fake NGOs work together, cashing in on the world's most desperate people. He later published a memoir titled, Ghosts in the Sand. The dedication read, "For Maria and Zion, who reminded me what we're fighting for." Today, Maria lives in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Newark. Zion started school again. A scholarship fund was created in his name. Maria now works with the Hostage Recovery Project, helping locate missing aid workers and verifying international job postings for women in crisis. She speaks quietly, but powerfully, at summits and panels. When asked if she's angry at the world, she says, "I was. But I decided to build something better with the rage. That's what mothers do. We build."